It's your boy Benji Burke, Kevin Pace, Benjamin's in Business Podcast. We got two special guests. This is the City League 80s edition. Right?
Yeah, conversation.
So I got my partner, this is my shooter, Scott Reeves, came out 87.
Boo, boo.
Got my dude, A.T. Thornton, came out 87 out of Brookhaven. We got some great conversations for you guys. So what we starting with? We starting with a debate. We starting with the city championship in '86. What you want to start? We're gonna leave with the A.T. right quick, because I know he want to get that off his chest early.
The beauty of everything that we do or have been doing over the last few years is being able to bring everything back together. Legacy is what we've been talking about, but in that legacy, we're able to recall being adversaries, you know, when we're 15, 16, 17 years old. So we're gonna get into all the good stuff and the fun and the laughter, but the beauty of it is we here now, 30 plus years later.
Yeah. No doubt. Reeves, what you got?
Yeah, man, it was a great era. We talk about it all, you know, unlike what we see sometimes where kids are able to open a roll and collect themselves to certain schools, build super teams or power teams, and then you've got others that are left kind of in a void. For us, we always talked, there was no night off. We played on Tuesdays and Fridays, and everybody had somebody you had to prepare for. So it was just a different era than the experience of these kids now.
Yeah. So we're gonna jump off right into it. A.T., who was, give me your top two you had to really work to play against. And this is starting in North Division. Let's start North Division on.
Tony Hilton. Right, Tony Hilton. There was a question Brother Vic would put out there and ask that question: who was the toughest cat you had to go against?
Okay.
It was Tony Hilton, because Tony Hilton never talked to you. Would slap you across your forearms like all night long with no change in his whole facial expression.
Tony Hilton.
You know what I mean? He was a defensive cat. And then I would say having to go and play against Linden, you know, when we had to play them once or twice on the north side, playing against the likes of Lou Jeter, the Pat Holtz, you know, them cats playing in the cracker box and everybody 6'8", you know, in a small space. So that was the challenges that I faced on the north side.
So who was that point guard at North? I mean at Linden that year? When you came?
Charlie. What's Charlie's last name? I can't call Charlie. But they had Tony Burrell, they had Charlie, little Charlie. I apologize, brother, I can't remember your last name at the time. But them cats.
Was Jonathan Soul?
Yeah, Jonathan Soul, rest in peace. You know Jonathan lost his life, man. Yeah. So, you know, them cats just came. It was a competitive. Scott mentioned about there was no nights off, right? Tuesdays and Fridays, man. You had to show up with your program ready to go. So on the north side, those were the cats that raised your level. And as we were talking about off camera, you know, you got to play a Westone who was going to play a slow down OCC style with one of the best scorers in the city that people really don't talk about, Alvin Bird. You know, like them was
Huh?
No. Bird just killed you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Soft and wet, you know, off the glass, back to the basket.
People talking for him. Boogie. Boogie was talking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Reeves, what's South Division?
On the south side, on the south side, you know, the first name that comes up that you had better find him on the court. He can get no space, and that was Satch. You couldn't find him. He had that little ear jump shot, and it was deadly.
Yeah.
And I mean, without a three, if there was a 3-point, he might have been the best scorer on the south side.
Him and Rich Jones.
Yes, they were great. They were a great pair. You had Glasgow at West. He was a quick. You know, they went to the city championship my senior year.
Okay.
So they were, I would say, the two my senior year in '87 that we had to deal with on the south side. Earl Young was hard to guard at South because he was so strong. So he'd make you foul him. He was just a physical player. Earl was a handful.
Pace, who would you say?
Well, I'm gonna go on both sides of the street, so I'm gonna start with the north side, of course. But you know, you have to go back, especially within our era. You know, we were talking off camera as well. You know, you have to just talk about Wayne Marshall. You know, when you and the bigger part of it too is like going into high school '83, you know, Brian Bowman,
Yeah.
you know, and just the rivalry too, like between like Brookhaven, Linden, and then Marion Franklin, Eastmoor. You know, you guys of course played in the city championship. Who won that game?
Yeah,
We know-
Brookhaven.
They did? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But let me piggyback on something. So
Hold on, let me ask. Did you was that Will call or did you buy a ticket to that game?
Oh,
Shots fired early,
He
baby.
said Will called up. He said Will called. No, it was at my school, so I got in free. Thank you very much.
Hey, hold on. You went back and you said Brian Bowman there. So let me tell you who was running and trapping me to death. Terry Miller and Tucker.
Oh my
Kevin
goodness.
Tucker.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Man.
He in your ear.
Yeah.
He in your ear.
Yeah.
Them big, man, come on.
And he a fullback.
Yeah.
That move
A
like
linebacker fullback.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you a team that even when we play or get together when we do, we don't talk about that much. If Benji don't get a steal, 10, 15 seconds to go in the game to make a layup against South, you play South. And oh, by the way, that year South went to the state championship game. We don't ever really talk about them that much. Man, they were a monster team.
Yeah.
That one year in '86, they were good.
Who was the one team that beat them from the north side, though?
I don't
We beat
know. I
them.
wasn't at that game.
Mifflin, we beat him.
We were
We beat him
probably
at home.
Brookhaven beat them. We beat them in overtime on their floor.
Yeah, we beat
I'm
them.
just saying,
Yeah.
you know. As we recount and recapping,
Yeah.
thank you, Scott, for that lead in.
You're
right
welcome.
there.
But you're right. That late steal got us to the championship.
Yeah.
I mean, it was shoot,
Yeah.
it was big. I mean, you think of Donnell Hughes and Tony Cute at the guard.
Name that squad, bro.
At the
Stretch.
guards. That's a nice size.
Andre Palmer, Stretch Patterson.
Yeah,
Come
man.
on, man.
was nice.
Palm,
They got better.
Yeah.
We knocked them off earlier in the year too at Mifflin,
Yeah.
but at the same time we played them again in the district.
Nah,
You know,
Hughes
they
and
beat us
them,
by
they
30.
played at the right time.
Yeah, they did, man. They got better.
They had it.
They was
They
in the
had
championship game.
it. They had it.
Yeah.
They was 6-4 and up, wasn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were big.
Yeah.
They was huge.
I think for me, man, my two, I want to say one of Reeves won because they was my junior year and senior year, bro. They was a tough guard. Charles Willis was, bro. He was a monster.
Michael Jordan.
He was a monster for real. Then they had Joyner. They had some size down low, but then they had Tommy Pinnell and Orlando Roger Weatherspoon, rest in peace. They had a crew that they believed that they were better than everybody. So I mean, you got a team that's like that. You know what I mean? And then my other one, I was gonna say Independence, but I don't think I've ever lost to Independence. You know,
They had good
some-
Nobody's
players,
lost Independence
but
here.
not had a team. They had a good player.
Well, their
But they-
best player ended up leaving, going to East, Juan King.
Juan King,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
East
that's
High
why-
School.
That's why Witt probably averaged 10, 12 assists. I mean, if he ain't had one, he might be back down to 4.
They gonna back down to 4.
Kevin Whitlow, you heard that.
There's always some questions about the brother Jarhead who was keeping stats over there, though.
Man.
I don't know if you can get 15 assists, but you only got 49 points.
Yeah, I'm just and you shooting 80% from the field, but you got about 50 rebounds.
Right.
Ain't
I
that many
don't
rebounds to
understand.
get?
I don't understand.
Them East stats.
Y'all know Witt gonna go through the
Them
screen.
East
on that.
stats.
You know what I mean? You gonna go through the screen. But on the South, like I never played against Briggs. Got in trouble twice. My junior, senior year, couldn't play that game. But West was tough. Raymore, when I played against Raymore, they was
Yeah.
tough. Mike was a junior.
That little cracker box gym.
Yeah, Mike was a junior. They had a crew. You know what I mean?
Come on, you can't leave out Boo Cason over there now.
Oh man.
85 now.
Yeah. Who came out 84?
84?
Yeah.
My bad. My
And they
bad.
had a crew. Tim
Yeah.
Bray.
Yeah.
Rest in pease, Portis.
Yeah.
Bray,
They just couldn't get past
Luke
Marion
Mason,
Franklin.
Yeah.
Storm and Norman.
Marion Franklin was a tough man. I mean, going in, did y'all ever play at Marion Franklin?
Yeah.
It was,
Norman make it?
Yeah.
it was tough.
Yes.
Norman
Yes.
make it though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They was grown men, like don't listen. They was different, man. They was
And to go back to, you think about every Tuesday, we talked about you got to play every Tuesday, Friday, right? So, y'all's year, 87. Who both of y'all was on first team on City? Mm-hmm. Okay. Who made that team in 87? Y'all remember?
Jeter.
Oh, Jeter came out in 87? I
88. But he made first team.
88.
Still first team.
Kenny Brown. See, there's a
Kenny
sleeper
Brown.
at Beach Crow.
Led the city in rebounds
Kenny Brown was
and
cold.
scoring in senior year.
Kenny Brown was cold. Huh?
Yeah,
No.
just went to work. Hey, nicest guy you ever want to meet. Nicest guy you ever want to
But he'll
meet.
take off on you though.
And yeah.
He'll take off on you.
They had him and who?
Be
like
careful.
Clinton? Didn't they have somebody like something like that?
Yeah.
Chaka Chandler.
Oh, no.
Shaka was 88.
But they did 10. It wasn't like 5 in the north, 5 in
Yeah,
the south.
Chaka Chandler was an 88 cat.
Earl.
Chaka was nice.
Earl Young was first team.
Satch,
Satch.
Satch coming from.
Richard Jones didn't make first team?
He may have. I mean, that's a long
Tony
time ago, but
Burrell? I can't remember.
Oh, Tony Burrell, that's who was.
he was a point guard. He was an 87 point
Eric
guard
Chin.
back in there.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, Chin.
Eric
Oh,
Chin.
man.
Eric Chin.
Yep.
Scott and
Explosive.
I have a great story.
Yeah.
When you asked about 87, me, Scott, Kevin Bird, Keith Jones, I think it was, we had 2 white cats from out of Westerville. Kevin Bird, AB's younger brother. We was on the
B
summer
squad.
AAU team that beat Lou Jeter, Beater, Kevin Haddock,
Yep.
David, the point guard from World.
David Owens. Davey O.
We beat them. That was the day. If we played them dudes 10 times, we win that one. Quite
Yeah.
honestly, ain't
Yeah.
no stunting on that one. But they didn't have Eli, but that was their squad. But Eli didn't play that day. But we ended up winning that game, and that's one of the things that with Scott, and Bird, Kevin, we get together and we talk about it. Like, we was the B-side cats.
The B-side.
You know what I mean? Them dudes was the hoopers of the city.
Yeah.
At the time, you knew, and what we talked about again off camera, when you went and played in your local park. I mean, hey, if you was a guy, you was a guy.
Yeah.
And if you lost, you might not play the rest of the day.
Right.
You know what I mean? So those guys who we made All City with, or All Central District, whatever the case was, it goes back to the central point. It wasn't no off nights on the Tuesday and the Friday, baby. You had to line up and come and bring your A game.
Yeah. Now I think it's dropped off so drastically, man. It's like it's a disappointment. But you also got to take into account, Reeves, and you can kind of talk on this. OCC has grown as far as in schools, so people move out.
Well, here's what we were one of the first groups that had to deal with this. We had to deal with busing. So a lot of cats, especially the cats that lived in the Mount Vernon area, the Linden area, got carved up and went everywhere. Less so much for us because we fit demographically within the boundaries of busing. So Eastmoor, the guys that went to Eastmoor was gonna go there anyway. So when you hear guys talk and say, well, I went to Brookhaven, but I would've went to Linden. Or I went here and would've went to Linden. So a lot of those powerhouse teams, I really believe when you look at who lived in the Linden area but didn't go to Linden, man, Linden would have kept that dynasty rolling into the 90s when you look at where guys went. And so we experienced at our time when busing went in, a lot of white flight out into the suburbs. But you have then experienced a lot of black flight. So when you see Pick Central play Gahanna play Reynoldsburg play Westerville South, and almost the whole teams are all black, and they play like the City League, but all their fathers are City League fathers. So when you see those guys play, that's almost a reflection of what the City League was like then. When you see those high-powered teams and pushing Westerville South win a state championship, Pick Central win a state championship, those are guys that a generation ago would have been in the City League.
So I guess my question is, will the City League ever get back to being as competitive as what we?
Not with 16 schools. Not with 16 schools.
So they would have to shut down.
They are. When we played, Columbus City, when we were kids in elementary school, had 100,000 kids. 100,000. By the time we were in high school, they still had about 80. They have 47,000 kids in the school district.
It's half of that now.
Yeah, half of it now with the same number of schools. So, we all played, most of the City League schools played in the largest division, which then for us was AAA. We were all AAA schools, except for a couple of the smaller ones. Now, it's only one or two that are Division I. They're Division II, Division III. I think Afrocentric has gone to the state championship 2 years in a row in D3. So they're a lot smaller, they're a lot more carved up. And because you can open a row and go wherever you want, you've got kids who've collected together if they've not gone out to Pickerington, to Reynoldsburg, to Gahanna, to Westerville.
Okay. Wow. So I mean, and that's what, you know, gets me. I get to a game and I want to see our Tuesday, Friday night battle. I want to see Brett Austin and Vic Harbison going against, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, that's what I was used to when I was in the 9th grade. I watched Batman and them at Easton. I mean, you know, Sam Cherry, you know, guys like that.
My name from 9th grade was Norman Macon going against Frank Morrow.
Frank Morrow and Norman Macon. Man, it was like two monsters jumping on each other.
Herb Daughtry.
Herb Daughtry. Right. Shoot, what about Morphin? Rob Tatum and that crew. Tino Richardson. And
Don't forget about Adam Porter.
Adam Porter. Yeah, bro. He beat me my junior year.
Don't forget about Adam Porter.
It was Kirk Helfand. His side piece that got me. I looked up, he got 16. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he was
Don't leave out Mifflin though.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Sean
Mifflin was
Scott.
strong. They
Like,
went to
them
city
dudes-
our senior year.
Mifflin was the deal.
Yeah.
Mifflin was the deal when you start again. Every team and into every what we're all talking about is, you know, before busing, right? And what it comes back to is community. When you say you want to see what you want to see, I would say, well, let's take it back and make everybody go to their community school.
Yeah.
And you may be able to see what it is that we were able to experience, all four of us, right? When you come out, we've been talking, and I'm sitting here reflecting, and I remember what it was like to be on JV, play the 5:30 game as we joke, right? Yeah. But I remember being the 5:30 cat, and then coming off the court, getting changed, and then looking out the door, right, into the crowd. So not only did it impact what the play and the product on the court, it was what was happening in the stands, because community-wise, man, people was in there, the chants, the cheers on all sides of town, right? But to look out that door, right?
Place to be on Tuesday, Friday night.
To look out that door and see we done got switched up, and we had to form the line for the varsity, the Bowmans, the Tuckers, the Herb Daughtries, all of them, right? And celebrating and cheering. It was something to be a young cat and aspire to be all the cats that we're talking about or will talk about, right, in this segment. Like, hey man, we looked up to the Daryl Delaney's, we looked up to the Charles Praters, right, the Kevin Whitlow,
Dorsey Birdsall,
the whole
Booby.
thing, the Allen Caslers that we just had a chance to kick it with the other night.
I looked up, Booby was one of my mentors, and then my other one barely played because him and the coach is Donald Bell. See, people didn't get to see D. Bell play, but I saw Donald Bell play. Probably one of the best guards that everybody we talk about. You know what I mean? But he just wasn't, you know, with the coach in good graces. So, I mean, so you look at when we played, right? We 86, 87. So after that, it still trickled. It was still dope until what? Because even with Tom Watson, Lamont Bars, and Carlos, and that Mayor Franklin,
And they replaced them, Coley and
96.
I'm gonna say 96.
So I want to ask
10
Pace.
years.
So what I'm gonna
10-year
ask though,
period.
I want to ask Pace.
96, 97.
Why does Pace say 97? Like, what changed in your eyes?
Well, what I saw was like, so just going back to what you alluded to earlier about these guys we looked up to. One of the things that was different, we got to play against them all the time because we was at the park. We got to see them at Mifflin Open Gym. We got to see them at Orton Davis. So we looked up to those guys, but they inspired us to get better because we played against them. You know, they pushed us. You better get better. And
What changed?
I think that just
AAU.
changed.
We didn't have AAU like it exists today. Our AAU was the playground, St. Stephen's, rec centers. They play there. They don't play. It's all structured. It's all with refs. It's not go to a playground. There's music playing in the background. It's wrapped around the court. You know, you smelling, the smells of the playground. They don't have that. Point game, you can't lose. They don't have that. You can play in a tournament. You can lose 3 games every weekend. It's no big deal.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem.
You know?
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah, point game on the playground when you
that's
know
the problem.
your night's probably done if you lose. That last point gonna last 18 minutes.
Yeah.
Now there's a condition with that as well. So you're 5, the other 4 guys might not get back on, but if you know you know who you are, somebody's gonna pick you up. But the 5 you came with, once y'all lost, bro, man, listen.
Here's what else changed in Columbus. You marked that year. And it was 1986. I was a teacher and a JV coach at the time. So we had busing. The last, any of you know, the last basketball game played before busing. The last basketball game played before busing. Anybody know which one that was? East High School winning a state championship with Granville. That was the last basketball game. Busing started the next year. We endured that. So Judge Duncan, Tracy's dad, is the one that instituted busing in Columbus. By 85, he had relieved Columbus City of the busing mandate because so many white families had left. There was nothing left to desegregate. Columbus made the decision to keep the deseg boundaries until 1996. By then, the trickle of black flight had started to leave. The reason I remember is 96 is Kenny Gregory was a junior, and that group, Kyra Massey, really good player for Eastmoor, went to Kent State, was going to be a senior. And they were going to back to neighborhood schools, but you could open enroll anywhere. And kids were trying to talk Kyra into coming to Independence and play. And he ended up staying at Eastmoor. But kids started collecting at places. Kids started collecting at Independence, at Brookhaven. Coach Howard started getting his thing rolling, West High School. In fact, my last team coaching, the 2002 team, we had got to the city championship game, played Brookhaven. We were 19-1, ranked number 4 in the state. Brookhaven was 20-0, ranked number 2 in the state. That's the year Brookhaven won the state championship. And my kids were in the locker room or in practice saying, between Brookhaven's team and my team, South would have won the state championship.
Yes.
Because my team had about 3 kids who would have been at South. Brookhaven state championship had about 2. So that was the dynamic. We went back to neighborhood schools, but they didn't go back to their neighborhood school.
So let me ask you a question. Was that the same year with the kids that came from South that was at Brookhaven?
So you had like Raheem Moss,
the Patterson, the
Raheem.
Raheem
Those
Ross.
were South kids, but they opened and rolled. Now I'll say this, Coach Howard, people criticized him early, like he was recruited. He never recruited. He didn't have to, because parents and their sons wanted what they were doing. They were playing so hard. They were winning. They wanted their kid. In fact, other schools were the benefactor of Brookhaven because Bruce would have 15, 16 cats on his freshman team. Guys like J.J. Sullinger on down, and then kids left, and because they're like, I'm never going to play part. So the kids who won a state championship in 2002, top 6 went D1, from Cornley to Ron Lewis, Raheem, Lav, Faust, Patterson. Dante Patterson went to Wright State. Top 6 they all were there all 4 years. So it wasn't like they collected a team and robbed the school from their junior, senior year. So that changed the dynamic of Columbus City more than anything.
So 98 on. Like, name some players that play from 98 on. I mean, I can't.
Tahan Johnson.
Who?
He'd give you 50.
Who
was the cat? Dejwa Townsend.
Yeah.
He'd give you 40 a night.
Westone, no. Dez Townsend was Westone.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was.
He said, who'd you say the first one?
Tahan.
See,
And so he went from Centennial to East.
Yeah.
And they went to the state championship game. Got beat.
Who's that coach?
Bob White.
Man.
I was coaching. I was at Northland then.
Okay.
But I think one of the hugest conflicts, like right now, with like a lot of these kids that want to talk about, and I'm not gonna say kids, I'm gonna say guys that are younger than us.
Yeah.
They're like, so some of them are still playing. I mean, cause they ain't play a whole lot when they were younger, so they still playing. So that's okay. But at the same time, like they want to compare eras, and I'm like, there's no comparison.
Yeah.
Like the competition we had to go up against. Think about this, and we talked about this the other day. I said, by the time I got 83 high school, all those guys that graduated in 83, 84, 85, then when we got out of high school or went through high school, we was going up against them.
Yeah.
wherever we went, we ran into one of them or two of them or five of them.
Yeah.
You know, so it was just a whole nother level of you had to get your game together.
Well, and I think, it boils down to, back then we worked on our craft against other people
Yes.
on blacktop. You know what I mean? Like, so you had to compete.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like I'm cool with you on IG, so I ain't gonna be as no. When I laced up, I'm giving it to you because I didn't want KK to be calling me on three-way WWE. What did he do to you, bruh? What did he do to you? You know what I mean?
Right.
At Lord David. So it was competitive all the time.
Yeah.
Now we was cool after, but it wasn't no friend. We wasn't friends on the court.
No.
Yeah.
Period. I wanted to kill it though. Every time I played against him, whether it was a real game or, but that's my brother.
Yeah.
But guess what? We bleed
played harder
after the game. You know, I'm trying to kill everybody, and I think we lost that as a group, probably right there early 2000s.
And that's because Columbus as a league lost depth. They always had teams that were really like Bruce's team. Ike Jefferson, they won the city 3 years in a row.
Tony Rice. Tony Rice.
Those kids could play. Then as Bruce's era wound down, Satch comes into Northland. Then he went on a nice run, but there was no depth to the league because it was a collection of. It was almost like City South All-Star team versus City North All-Star team, but you've got to play other guys.
Yeah.
We had depth because we were spread out in every team.
Yeah.
And I think one thing you just said too that you had to realize too, you said when you said talking about wit, you said real game. Every game was a real game.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't care where it was.
Yeah.
I don't care if it was Gus Macker. I don't care where it was. If you lined up across from me, it's a real game, bro.
St. Charles open
Yeah,
gym.
it's a real game. Man,
Just
listen.
came in there and tried to destroy everything.
Oh,
Bexley until they moved the court.
Bexley, so got a film of Bexley. There was 4 outdoor courts. All 4 courts had probably 4 or 5 nets. It was stacked, and my dad filmed it. So you can go in there and be like, that's Doc Ward, that's Lane.
Bexley had they had a football field.
Yeah.
Man,
Listen, that was the longest full court ever.
ever. It was a full 94. It was the NBA 94.
If you got to steal, you needed 17. You need about 25 dribbles to
You
get
always
there.
took off too early, didn't you?
Right.
Hey, but you know who other court was like that? Behind Raymore's crib.
Yeah.
That at the church outside. That court was super long. You know what I mean? So
Or when towards the late 80s, early 90s, when Ohio State had basketball camp and left the glass backboards behind St. John for like a month.
I got introduced to Alonzo Spellman then.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, I bet you
He was
did.
playing. You know, thank God Farm wasn't around.
Thank God.
One of the things, y'all, when y'all mention that, and I'm reflecting over here, not only was it your competition outside, right, of all the cats you had to go against, it was competition interiorly.
Yeah.
Because of when it was community.
Yeah.
Right? And even when it became busing for us.
Yeah.
Right? Still in your gym, you can go, we talking about how you had to compete against certain cats.
Yeah.
We were just talking about Juan Malone.
Yeah.
Right? Name the number of guys who was in your gym. Right? The guys that didn't make it for one reason or the other.
Yeah.
Those were the guys you had to compete against every single time in order to make the team.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about 97 in terms of what Pace is talking about, that starts to dilute. And so now guys, you're only playing with the all-star teams, but they didn't have to compete every day. The Terry Millers, the Kevin Tuckers, when I was a freshman, right?
Or the guys that just couldn't get eligible and was just
That's what I'm saying.
sweet, but just couldn't get on the
Right,
team.
and then you're practicing against those guys, and those guys like Terry and Tuck for me as a guard, right? I'm going against them every day, and there's some reverence, right? But then at some point in time, it was like, hold on, though, I gotta go too, right? And then I would show my wares against them cats, but that was because the difference in you had to take your butt whoopings. You took your butt whoopings and it was cool, and you ain't quit, you ain't walk away, right? And then you turn around and say, well, tell you what, then I'm gonna give it to all these other cats, because the older guys, y'all talked about Norman Macon. I remember watching again in reverence as a young cat. I come in and I look at it like, man, these dudes is the joint.
Yeah.
I watched Megan dunk on Bo baseline.
Yeah.
And I remember being one of the cats dressing for the tournament, because that was another thing too.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
Right? When you was on the list,
Yeah.
when you was on the list to be able to say I'm dressing,
Yeah.
see, that's one thing, we gotta add that into the factor. Bruh, when you got to dress. Now some of us have been able to do it, and you got to dress, but you looked at it in reverence. I'm gonna use that word. You looked at it like, oh man, I done made it, right? And then when you do get to make it, and now you are playing and you are on that court, we was talking about the cat Jimmy Bradley. And I was giving y'all the story. Hey, I got 2 fouls early, and I had to sit down and watch, and then I got to watch a Jimmy Bradley.
Yeah.
Right? And I got to watch Wayne Marshall, who was on our team at the time, like, man, these cats is cold. And so you looked at them dudes that was cold in reverence.
Yeah.
Hey, man, you respected that. I don't know that these young cats respect the game the way it was for all four of us.
It's not that the meaning is different for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the game for me that made me say, man, I got it. Really, I ain't ready. It was Lyndon McKinley at Eastmoor. I'm a freshman. Lamar Prentice, Doc Ward, Shoemate, Walls. Reggie Rankin was a sophomore, but he wasn't in the ingredient yet. I don't know if Tone Neely was on. I know he was on the team, but Fonzo Neely. I mean, you know what I mean? And when I mean they were shooting from 30 feet back then, it still ain't counting as 2. Man, it was crazy. And I was just like, yeah, this is real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was the game. That was the switch for me that day.
It made you have to go work on your craft. You use the word craft. You had to be like, let me go work on my game. Because the thing about it too was, when you showed up, Orton Davis, Linden Park, wherever you showed up, the cages on OSU's campus, you knew if I wanted to be a guy, man, I got to show up against these cats.
Yeah.
Right.
Whether it be in your own school or the cats that you went against. And what Pace was saying, hey man, you could lose. You lost in the rec. I'm not even the rec game. You lost in the park.
Yeah.
In a pickup game. That was pickup for us.
Yeah.
When you lost, hey man, you might not get back on. And as we was talking about, you lose. The cat, if Apprentice or any of them cats lost, or Fonz Neely, or Doc Ward wasn't losing, them cats wasn't losing.
Right.
But when you lost, you might have to pick your things up and go, let me go to the next part.
Yeah.
Let me try to get on at the next set. Or you just sat and watched, or you went and played on court 2, 3s, and 4.
You talk about going from JV to make, where you made it in the street is when you lose and the next cat on drop one of his fifth to pick you up.
Absolutely. Oh, my bad.
Say that.
I forgot I had him.
Right.
He was just playing.
Yeah.
Forgot I had him, bro. My bad.
Yeah. But the cat that got bumped, he ain't had no words for that. Because he knew better.
Yeah.
You gotta accept it.
Sure. Another guy who had my eye open, man, went in the city league with Scott Tedder, Whitehall.
Oh, man.
So Scott Tedder, man, lefty white boy. When I mean,
Yeah, he was.
can't nobody. Everybody we just named in the city league, none of them can say nothing about Scott Tedder because he gave it to all of them
Right.
and didn't tell you. It was just you looked in the book and was like, man, how many did he have? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Scott Tedder was
He was-
another one.
he
So
was
now I
a
gotta go work
monster.
on my craft.
Yeah, he was a monster.
He was just one of them, man. Then always watching Double D, Daryl Delaney. 8th grade, I went to the Coliseum and seen East play. Man, I mean, you talking a fullback, a pro body fullback playing point guard. You know what I mean? So, you talk about like Whitlow being able to be able to study under that. You know what I mean? Whit was right there. So, those days, man, it was just, it meant everything to us to be able to be as good as we could, whether it was football, basketball, track, You know, now, you know, they pulled away from with so much stuff on this technology. They don't play outside.
Not at all.
And then I look at one of the courts, I think it was in Westerville, the outside court is better than most gyms in the city league. They're outside courts. We would have been hooping there until the lights came on. That's how nice it is. Rubber. I mean, they got the little, gave you a little bounce. I was like, is this outside?
Yeah.
So, you know, I just think they don't value it the way it do. Now, on the flip side, because they train and they got certain things that they're specifically training on, their skill level is better than us. At an earlier age, to me, the skill level, the heart, though, they don't have it. I think their skill level base is better than ours, but they don't have a heart and the grind and grit that we have.
Okay, so I can agree and disagree with that.
Okay.
I get you. But we developed our own skill level, bro. We had to.
Yeah.
If you couldn't dribble, you better figure it out.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then one of the things too, I think that outside of just the high school, you know, I'm just saying Louis Cathcarts.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have Louis Cathcarts in the community anymore where you go to a gym, you might be playing against Jimmy Jackson, you might be playing against like Marvin Stevens or Van Exel, or, you know, come in here and get some of that.
Yeah.
And see,
Guys like Keith Neal did that on the west side.
Yeah, just ran into him.
yeah.
Ran into Keith Neal 2 weeks ago at a coffee shop. Me and Donnell Hughes. He put me on the phone with a historian from back, like my dad.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I'd love to get on this show. I got some stories. You know what I mean? So Keith Neal's still, you know, plugging in. And again, man, I think Columbus hooping community is so rich. We can have 10 series of these. And talk about each era, each 4 years.
Yeah.
And it'll be rich. A lot of history of basketball. You think about back then, man, we got caught up in the ACT. My GPA wasn't good enough, or my ACT wasn't good enough to match my GPA. Wasn't a great student, so I had to go JUCO. So that was the first year. They didn't even know how to teach us about ACT.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So that's why I messed up. But I ended up going to JUCO and seeing some of the best basketball players in my life. I played against John Starks, who wasn't even the top 3 players on his team. You know what I mean? Gerald Patio, Prater went down there and became a monster and went to Ole Miss. So, you know, I always tell people I followed the ball my whole life. Wherever the ball took me, that's where I followed it. I ended up getting an education, ended up meeting my wife then. You know what I mean? So it meant a lot to me. So that's why I speak about it passionately. You know, high school was everything for us. You know what I mean? And then you got Cook calling everybody on 3-way because he didn't got the dispatch. And James Bradley then gave somebody 42. And you know what I mean? He getting everybody on the phone to talk about it. So it's one of those times, man, that we can continue to talk about players, you know, coaching, you know, everything.
but what about this era? So this is what I'm gonna say. I'm open to any dialogue, but between the 60s, 70s, and 80s, like 90s and above can't compare. Period. They can't compare.
Agreed.
They can't compare. There's no comparison. They can't compare.
I think there's some teams that could have, not as a whole league.
Be who? What team? Okay, hold on. Since you said that, so you take the best team in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and what team can you put together in the 90s that could beat any of them great teams from those eras?
Give us a couple.
I tell you what, until the moment he left, and if he hadn't left, I'd have said Eastmoor that had Carlos Lamont and Samaki. And then they had Nicky Fawcett, Mike Coates.
So you saying you are we talking about an actual team?
That was in the 90s.
If a team.
They were an actual team as juniors.
Okay.
How can you not now? We're coming out of, Kenny Esteban, that team, athletically big, could have played with any of our team. Now, I didn't see E78, 79, 68, 69. I was born in 69, so I didn't see them. And I didn't see Linden 75, Walnut Ridge 71, Linden 77, E79. I didn't see those teams. You know, the first big time team I saw was Marion Franklin with Norman Maker that went to the Final Four. And I went to the Final Four game when they got beat by Gary Grant and Camp McKinley. And then the Linden teams, Lou Jeet, they went after us. Didn't Reggie Rankin and them go to state championship in 85?
Youngstown Reign. They lost to Youngstown Reign.
You know, once they started collecting, I would say the first team really that could have had the same kind of pop would have been because SD went to Independence with Kenny, and then the Brookhaven 2002 team, the Northland team that was ranked #1, which I think was better than the team that won the state championship. They could have competed with any of them.
But you're using the word team, and when you say that, that's cool. But what I'm telling you is, in the 60s, 70s,
era,
and 80s, I'm just saying
the depth of the league,
60s,
no.
70s, and 80s, there was 10 people on that team that could have been a starter.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah, it is different. I 100% agree.
Different.
It is.
Like
it
was
is
guys
different.
that wasn't getting in the game. It was just really as good as the guys that were starting in the game.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
What about the team, the Mayor Franklin team with Simmons and Carlos in them?
They were good. That's who Carlos and them couldn't get over them. Mike Coley and who was there? They had two dudes that were just high fly. Yes, Simmons and Coley. Simmons and Coley. And they played Linden. This was the first time it went away from a city league site. The city, because our college cats went to go watch the game. The city championship game was Mike Coley, Simmons, and they played Linden. Linden was ranked #2 in the state. It was at Cat. It was at Capitol, and that game was high level. Now the depth of the league, because I saw it as a JV coach, and then I saw it as a varsity coach. The depth of the league was not the same. The depth of the league was not the same.
I want to add something though, because Benji used this word, and I think this is the main difference between those 90s teams, those late 90s teams.
Yeah.
Athletically, you may have been much more skilled than we were and athletic. You use the word heart, and that's why I always stick to that part, to what Pace is talking about. You might have had more skill. I think we had better IQ. We had that killer, right? If we really pressed up against you, we were talking about one of the young cats that's playing right now, right? And I won't call him by name, but the question was, could the cat line up and play with us? And could he would line up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, right? Maybe so. But I think the separating factor in all of that was like, hey man, when we start really going at you, because again, you had to bring your heart to the game. We got respected more for having that heart of taking an L in a practice, in a Orton Davis, in a Linden Park, in whatever park, Crum Park, whatever. The older guys always respected the younger guy for being willing to put their face in the fan, as the term I would use. They respect you, and they would bring you along. These young cats now, to me, when you play and you really get after it, them cats gonna crumble. So I don't dismiss what their ability is, but again, because of open enrollment and you building teams, it was 10 cats on Linden from what, the 70s through?
Right.
The 70s through? They're cats that would have been the starter at some of these other teams.
So you have to play through some stuff. That's the one thing that I respect.
I'll tell you a kid from the late 90s who was probably I'm going to take SD out because he was special, in my opinion. He was special. And a little more guidance, he could have been really, really special. Lamont Barnes. He was a dog. I mean, he relished dunking and embarrassing you. He was a dog.
Did he play against y'all or play with y'all?
He played with us, so him and SD played when they were freshmen.
When he played with y'all?
As a sophomore, he started.
Yeah,
He started for us as
SD
a
was
sophomore.
the only freshman in Nike camp.
Lamont did, so on a team of grown men.
He
was a dog, man.
Yeah, I mean, he was, and I get it. I think his peers wouldn't agree because of just how he comes. He talk crazy. That's just how he is. But he always has, right? He always been like that. That's just him. But nah, he was special. Yeah, he was special.
When he played with us, I'm just gonna be honest. And this goes back to what I'm saying. So him being able to be on a team of grown men, and going up against
Pros
Louis and them going up against Louis and them every day. Every day. It's a difference. Like some people get to gym on Wednesday or maybe Saturday. Louis had the gym every day. So we're in there every day going against them. So it became different, bro. So you saw the difference where, like you said, when a lot of these guys y'all want to kind of say could play in the era with us, I'm telling you now they couldn't. Because once we got to this, you're done.
Yeah.
You're done. And they're not strong enough up here.
Me and AT had this conversation. Me and Wick have it all the time. James Tucker checks in the game, bro. We in the stack. He just came home from Chico.
Tell them what Tico is, though. Tell the people what Tico is.
Tico is a place you go where you're not living right as a youngin'. You get locked up there. And it's the worst of the worst. So he came in the game. We already in a stack at East.
Yeah.
Sophomore year.
Yeah.
Stack tight. He come in the game. We looking at this grown man who was
What we deemed to be a grown man.
man
Physically.
Right.
This dude is not
Physically.
in high school.
Right.
I
He
mean,
moved his
man.
stack, stood on my toes. Said you ain't touched the ball the rest of the game. And I was like, I'm about to kill this dude. That was my mentality. I'm about to kill him. Because me, I'm thinking, I'm gonna just give him one. He gonna be so aggressive. He gonna go over there and pull up. But they was in a 1-3-1. Witt know this. They in a 1-3-1. Witt running the back line. Prater at the point.
Oh, wow.
Kaz and Tuck on the end. I forgot who they had in the middle. Probably like Rob White or somebody. Man, I was just coming past half. And you know it's a small gym. I wasn't gonna let them trap me. So as soon as I caught the reverse pass, I'm up. I'm right at half court. Hit about 3 of them things. Sessions was like, time out. They went to man, and I mean, they just outlasted us. Cass killed us. Wick was orchestrating, but you know, that was a mental battle. Now I gotta go see him when if I go to the rink tonight. I gotta go, you know what I mean? So, them eras, man, was crazy. So, I just think, man, this is to be, we can go into a subject and have 10 more of these episodes.
Yeah.
Right? You gave some good history on, what that is. And I knew he would know because he was coaching in the 90s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he's seen it turn. But you also seen some good teams. I thought that Man Franklin team was special. That they had.
They was, but here's what this is what they're lacking. And I'm gonna say it. Like, we had the Worthington League. So listen.
Man.
They don't have nothing like that.
What?
Right.
They didn't have a place where they can have first team All-Americans come to this city, guys that's in the NBA come to this city, and overseas come to this
Knicks
city
Van
and
Exel,
go up against
Cincinnati's
them,
crew.
where you can really measure, it was a measuring stick.
Yes, sir.
They don't have that. That's why I
Yes,
said they
sir.
can never compare. They can't because their competition wasn't the same that they went up against.
And it wasn't consistent.
Yeah.
It wasn't the same.
Yeah, it's not night in and night out.
Again, Worthington League, you had to play. I don't care if the team wasn't that good. Right. Team might not be that good, but you matched up against Steve.
Yeah.
He gonna give you food in front of a lot of people.
Right.
Easy though.
Easy.
I'm saying easy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and I'm a short one. You know what I mean?
And then we got everybody battling over players every summer. Who gonna play with who?
Yeah.
The Cats and the Louis. Master Metals. I mean, all the things that went on, man.
Kroger.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have that. And then
Brown Rush.
yeah, bro. And then we
Cats
got
from Dayton came over.
thousands of people coming out every week.
Yeah.
Yo, man,
Yeah.
Ray Springer.
The cats from Dayton. What's my man who always had
Denny.
the briefcase full of tapes, mixtapes and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
you talking about,
but that was his
Ron
brother.
Hunter.
Yeah.
Talking about Ron Hunter, DJ
Yeah,
Ron
Denny and
Hunter.
them cats would come over.
man. So it was just, that's why I say, man, there's no real comparison.
Yeah.
It's just not.
And every era says that. So, the cats behind us, a decade behind us, could talk about our era because we had to deal with busing. We didn't have the same advantages. When we got to the Final Four, the state championship games, teams did 85, 84, 85, 88. We just couldn't get over the top, like in the 70s when they say, well, shoot, Warner Ridge 71, Linden 75, Linden 77. And oh, by the way, Mifflin was in the state championship with Bruce Howard in 77 in AA, East won in 79. Well, the 60s could say, shoot, East 73, South 75, Linden 77, East 78, 79. So they can always say, well, y'all didn't do this or that either. So, but there was a golden period of the City League, which I think we just don't have anymore. That we caught the tail end of, that they just don't have anymore.
Their only argument, and y'all can come on here anytime y'all want, their only argument would be that whatever these teams that they went and had these super teams at these high schools, that's fine. That's all y'all arguments y'all can have. Y'all won some state championships. That's cool. But the competition that you had to face when we came up, and I'm talking about back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, it's different.
Yeah.
They never experienced that type of competition.
Yeah.
They didn't.
It was just constant. It wasn't, I mean, you know what I mean? Like now, you go to a game and if there's a good city league team, you got one team that's running through the whole city league.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Blowing out everybody. I mean, and that's been happening since 2010, 2011.
Oh, every bit.
Northland just ran through everybody.
I say started with,
7 years.
I would say that started with Northland.
Yeah, for 7 years.
That started with
You know
Northland.
what I mean? Think about, it started with Jared's freshman year.
Yeah.
Did them 4 years. Trey did a year, that made 5. And then after Trey, it was Jada Robinson and Devin Scott, 6, 7. And then you had the Towns. You know what I mean? But I think it was like 9 straight years. Even the City League championships wasn't close, most of them wasn't close. I mean, 7, 9, something like that. But yeah, it kind of got.
They couldn't find any competition unless they played one of the academy schools somewhere around the country.
Yeah.
you're right.
All I'm saying is,
Yeah.
we didn't have a problem finding competition.
Yeah.
Right here,
Yeah.
right now. We're like, we going to the court in a minute.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
so all we looking for competition-wise is right there court waiting on us. Like we had to every day during the summer. Like, where's it? You know what? I'm gonna ride by a playground today, and I'm just gonna
It'd
sit
be empty.
there. Yeah, I'm gonna sit there and enjoy the birds and the geese. The geese on the court. They got the little geese walking across the court. You know, you might see a couple.
They ain't gonna happen, bro.
Yeah.
They ain't gonna happen. But hey, we're gonna shut it down on that. This is the episode 1 of the City League talk. We're gonna do probably 2 or 3 more with this same crew, and actually we're gonna kind of target in on specific things. So we might just do the next one. We might just do Brookhaven, Mifflin, Eastmoor. Matter of fact, we're gonna just dive in on them and maybe bring in another guest from one of the schools that might have played either before or afterwards. So we'll do that. But
I think we need to do a town hall session.
Yeah. A cat from each era.
You know what I mean?
Bring in a
Just-
60s,
so
bring
we
in a
can
70s
capture the
cat.
whole room.
So I'm gonna bring in Jim Clemens.
Yeah, I'm just saying, we just need to be able to capture whoever.
You know,
then let's have a town hall.
Find Todd Penn, bring him in here. Find cats like that, you know?
Ooh.
Yeah, see?
I think the thing that we're also leaving out that has to be a segment, start naming out the dudes who never made it.
Oh, yeah.
Who was better than a lot of cats.
Yeah. Cats who were playground All-Americans just couldn't get on the court. Guys like, on the south side, guys like Thomas Tuff.
But they made it though. You know why? Where
Guys
I say
like
that,
that.
I hear you, but they made it because everybody knew they was cold though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like nobody didn't know.
Right. We all knew. We all knew that cat that was like,
They coming off the bench if they was.
For real though. Yeah.
And every school got that.
Yep.
Yeah.
every school.
Every school got players like that and been like, woo.
Not no more.
Dodge the bullet.
Not no more.
Dodge the bullet.
Not no more.
Right.
Yeah.
We're going
All
to
right.
get an episode on that, fellas. Appreciate y'all, man. And we're going to go in on the next one. We're going to target one thing and dive in on that.